Wow, way better role. Way better.
Like, love it. I'm like, ready?
Okay. This is Haley. And this is Bailey. And you're listening to Text Me When You Land.
It's been a very interesting week for Text Me When You Land. Not just because of our podcast being amazing, but Lonely Ghost came out with a line with, is it Bays? Is that how you say it? B-A-
I think that's how you say it.
B-E-I-S?
Yeah.
Bays, yeah. Called Text Me When You Land, Lonely Air. And I'm like, oh, that's a great concept.
Our
Good thing
name
we
is so good.
It
Our
is
name
so good. I'm
It
so glad that
shows
we
it.
had that before they launched that, because that would have looked sus for sure.
I was also so happy because I feel like it would have gotten very complicated if it was something we were working on behind the scenes and then we had launched and that had already launched. So I'm really happy. And it just shows that the name is just so good.
It is
And
good.
I mean, the comments on it, people were so into it. I'm like, yes, like, okay, now come follow our podcast because of it, because Text Me When You Land is such a good name.
It's great. And what's funny too is one of the sweatshirts had red font, and for a while we were going back and forth with having our logo be red. And I'm really glad we decided not to do that for several reasons, but it definitely helped differentiate us even more because of like copyright and cease and desist and all that stuff. So I definitely am glad that we went with our logo that we have, because I mean, it definitely stands out from what they're doing. So speaking of their launch, their sweatshirts are so freaking expensive. Like, it's like $108 for some of them. I'm like, it's a sweatshirt. What? Why? Why is it so much
crazy.
money? Everything is so expensive.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
just
everything is so expensive right now. It is ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. It's stressful. I feel like
it's not
in all ways.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It really is. I mean, no matter where we go, it's always super expensive, whether it was intended to be that way or not. Bryce and I were at grocery store. We were at the grocery store. We're really struggling right now. We were at the grocery store and we were just buying like maybe a bag worth of groceries. It was like $150, and Bryce was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so expensive. I can't believe this is how much groceries cost right now." And I was like, "Yes, that sucks. Like, you're allowed to be upset about it, but you can either let it like consume you and it will drive you crazy and stress you out, or you just have to kind of embrace it, or find something different. Like, there's literally adapt or die in kind of a situation like this. When you have zero control over how quickly things are escalating like this, it's adapt or die."
Yeah, and I feel like it just is gonna make people live in a different way. And I feel like that's something like I've even talked about like a lot with you is like Evan and I are picking maybe the not more like traditional route of doing things, but it's a way for us to save money and be able to save up and then buy a house and do those things because things are so expensive. I think it's going to lead a lot of people to just taking maybe not the most traditional route, like living in an RV for us and then, just like doing different things where instead of jumping right into rent or something like that for us, we decided to put our money other places so we were able to save at the same time. And I feel like I see a lot of people trying to figure out different ways to do things because things are so expensive. And if you really do want to eventually get ahead and be able to save up, like you kind of have to think of things in different ways because it's like literally things like you said, you went to get groceries, like a bag of groceries is over $100. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, I know that I have a more expensive lifestyle because I choose to buy everything organic. I look for the clean ingredient stuff, and it's really unfortunate that those items are more expensive than the stuff that's sprayed with pesticides. Like, it makes no sense to me, but to each their own. And I mean, it kind of really forces you to get creative and figure out, okay, what do I do and don't need? It's more intentional buying now rather than like that frivolous spending. I mean, I saw someone say the other day that, stop buying pointless stuff. Like, you'd be surprised that you buy something and you're like, what are your purposes behind this in the next X amount of time? Chances are, most of the time, the things that people buy is totally pointless or like useless to them in 6 months. Unless it's food. So you said that you're saving for a house. So is that your guys' plan right now? Are you wanting to buy a house?
That would be our goal and our dream. But right now, I feel like we're very much in a transition period right now too, where we literally just got back. We moved out of the RV. We decided to. I don't even think I've like really shared this on my page, but we decided to move in with my parents for a little bit while we actually are traveling for the next like 2.5, 3 months. We're gonna be gone most of the time, so we're not even home. But we moved all our stuff in, and just like you can kind of see behind me if you're watching, like we have a room set up, and our goal is to just save up a little so that we are able to buy a house. We would rather do that than rent, but at the same time, I don't wanna say we're never gonna rent because really, like, if things take a different course, like, maybe we'll end up renting, but for now, we're just thinking for the next, like, 4 months, and then we'll kind of reevaluate and see what the best step is.
For sure. I mean, I was talking with Bryce the other day, and I was like, "Well, our plan was to rent until we know where we wanna settle down, but we've been living in the same location for 4 years now, so maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to buy and then until we do wanna figure out where we wanna settle down," because it's like there's so much potential, but I was thinking how much I love renting at the same time because there is no commitment. Like, there's no, like, if something breaks, you can call someone. There's not a lot of obligations. I mean, you have a contract, obviously, for whatever lease term you sign. I mean, some people go month to month, but there's no obligation that comes with owning a home other than, you know, the home ownership, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I was also, and I feel like you might have been too because your dad does real estate, but I feel like I was raised in like a family that was like, I did rent in college. So I don't want to say I never have rented, but they're very much like, if we have property, if we can do stuff, like let's be putting money like to the mortgage or doing things like that because you're going to be putting the same amount most of the time towards that as rent or something like that. Where I feel like it's like it so depends though, because if you're in a phase where it's like, "Well, I just wanna be here for a few months," it's like, "Let's rent." Like, you don't always have the opportunity to buy. Like, right this second, Evan and I couldn't go buy something, that's why we're living at home and saving up a little, so we are able to take that next step. But I feel like you're putting it in investments into yourself, and my parents have a few properties from their parents that were, like, passed down, and, like, properties are such a big thing, and, like, my parents have done investing, and, like, it's been such a great source of income for them. They very much have, like, instilled that, I think, in my head that, like,
Oh,
if
for
you
sure.
can buy, like, do that because it's such a great investment long term. And,
Yeah.
yeah, there are ups and downs, of course, in the economy, but, like, if you can hold on to it, it is huge. But
Yeah.
there are times, like, I don't wanna, like, say, like, renting isn't a good thing because I think that is also a stepping stone in, like, in
Yeah.
certain areas too, you know what I mean? Like, if I maybe if we went to live somewhere for 6 months, we'd go rent, I don't know, but
Yeah.
there's time and place for both
Um
of them, I think.
So there was a celebrity I saw the other day, Jeanette McCurdy. She played Sam on iCarly. Did you ever
Oh,
watch
yeah, yeah, yeah.
iCarly?
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw this, I know what you're okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, about how she owned a home and then she
Mhm.
hated it and
Yeah,
ended up selling her huge house and now she rents a, I mean, I wouldn't say little, but a smaller apartment in LA, I believe. And she loves it because she hated the obligations that came with the house, the maintenance, I mean, there's a lot of upkeep that comes with a house, whether if it's a fixer upper or if it's a like a turnkey home, regardless of what kind of state it's in, there's things that happen all the time and she hated it and now she loves renting. She's like, something happens, I just call the landlord or the management company and they come and fix it. I don't have to worry about it. And I mean, I get that. At a certain point, you have to figure out what style you're kind of going for. And I think that she's fully embraced. I mean, she tried owning the home and didn't love it. And so she
that's
went
not
to
her
renting.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't think there is a right or wrong way, and I even, like, for you guys travel a lot, so, like, I feel like renting does make sense, and yeah, like, at some point, maybe you aren't traveling as much, but, like, that's us too right now, like, we're not home that much to go and rent something makes no sense because we're home for, like, a week and then we're gone for a month, you know? But there's, like, different phases you go through where it's like, "Okay, this makes sense for where I'm at," and something that I think comes off, and me and you were talking about this right before our podcast, is I think a lot of people have opinions on how you should do it and what it should look like, and I don't agree. Like, I think you should do what works best for you. If that's renting, if that's buying, if that's living in an RV, if that's traveling full time, like whatever it is, it really doesn't matter what everyone else thinks you should be doing. It's really what works for you and your lifestyle.
It's, yeah. And with that too, I think it's interesting how there's a lot of pressure for people to buy houses like nowadays. I've seen like Bryce and I felt it. I mean, we see people say, "Oh, with the economy, like once, interest rates drop again, you're going to want to go I mean, you're gonna get bought out because all these cash offers are gonna come in. You're still not gonna be able to afford a house. And I'm just like, okay, I understand that, but you have to do what's best for your circumstances. And I mean, if owning a home is going to nearly bankrupt you, don't do it. I mean, that's probably bad advice. I mean, some realtors would say it's gonna be hard in the beginning for sure. And if it doesn't make you freak out a little bit, then I mean, that's not normal to
I
not
think
freak out.
anytime you buy a house, you're gonna freak out a little bit. My dad literally was like, every house I bought, I freaked out a little bit for the beginning part because, like, it is
Yeah.
a huge investment and you can't, like, "Oh, things slow down with work? Oh, well, I have a mortgage to pay." Like, there there's a
Especially if
lot
you're
more.
self-employed. If you're self-employed,
Yeah.
even more so, that's, like, a lot of pressure because you don't always know where your next paycheck's coming, and in today's economy, with how expensive everything is, I mean, you have to make sure you're putting food on the table. When I was talking about how being self-employed can be, like, its own struggle, especially with not knowing where your next paycheck comes from, it goes a lot into, like, the things we do as creators, like, you just don't know when your next deal is gonna come in, and that can be really scary. But I feel like often too, with being on social media and seeing all these new things constantly coming out, these new clothes, all these new styles, all these trends, it's like
All these things you
people
need to
just
buy.
constantly are wanting to buy these things that they don't need or aren't going to be in style or aren't going to benefit, like I said earlier, aren't going to benefit them. But it's like an addiction. Like I've seen like people talking about how I have to buy these things because I just don't feel like I'm good enough if I don't have it, or I'm going to be left out, or it's like that Stanley water bottle, like it took off and everybody had to have it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also really confuses you. I don't think you
It
always
does.
know, like, oh, all of a sudden you're like, "I need that. I want that." And maybe it's like for you, like you're renting right now. And I remember we had this conversation once and you're like, "We're renting and blah blah." And like, should I buy? Like I feel like I keep seeing people buy houses and like, should I buy? And we were like talking about it. And it's like you kept seeing that over and over. So like it makes sense. Or like, different things like we're not renting right now. And it's like, I feel like I almost have to over explain why we're not. And it's like I don't need to. Like, we are doing what works best for us, but you start to feel like, oh, well, that person's doing it. Like, why am I not doing it? And if you don't take a moment to step back and realize you're doing that, you won't recognize it because we all do it. We're all looking at things, we're all comparing at
Yeah,
some
it could
point.
be
But
anything.
yeah, it can be anything. But it's, do you take the time to step back and be like, is that what I really want? Or do I think I want that because I saw it? And I think that's
Mhm.
something people get so confused on and don't know always that fine line of which one is it. And if
It's
you
true.
aren't doing it, like if you don't, get that Stanley Cup or you don't, do what you're supposed to
Or you
do,
don't buy a
people
house, or
start to
you
have
don't like
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
people start to have a judgment and start to say, "Oh, like, well, why aren't you doing that? Like, you should be." And it's like, no, like, I actually shouldn't be right now. That's not where I'm at. But
It's
in
true.
people's head, they think, "Oh, you should do this. That's like the next step, or that's the
Mhm.
next phase." And
The
no, like,
next thing.
me
Absolutely.
and you like to do it the not traditional always way. So it's like
Well, and I
we
think with
both
the
have
way
been
the
those
world is going,
comments.
it's forcing people to go a non-traditional route, and then it only
Yeah.
perpetuates the problem of what am I doing wrong? Because the people that were able to do the traditional things or had the ability or wanted to do it traditionally, look down on you. And it's like, no, we're just changing it for the ways we want. They don't like that we're fighting the system or we're doing things differently. And honestly, everything happens how it's supposed to happen, and it sucks sometimes. It does. I mean, I'll tell you, like Bryce and I, when we were first married, we were so broke, like scouring pennies. Like it was so hard. But you learn to grow in those challenging moments. And it sounds cliche or I don't know, like, oh yeah, whatever. Okay, yeah, you grow when you're struggling. I understand that, but it really is. Without those moments, you wouldn't understand who you are today unless you went through that. Does that make sense?
I agree that those hard times make you grow so much as a couple. And I think at the end of the day, if you're on the same page and you know what your goals are and how you're working towards them, really all those outside things don't matter. But being on the same page and communicating with your person is huge because you're gonna get those outside comments. You're gonna feel that outside pressure. And I think being able to sit down and be like, okay, like you said, like we were struggling, but you guys were like, this is what we're gonna do to work and get out of that. And look at you guys now. Like you did build this, amazing foundation and you got to where you're at. But in those moments, it sometimes feels like, are we gonna get out of this? But it always does work out. It's just you gotta be a team too. That's like
It's true.
huge.
And, like, there were things I had to cut out of my life that I was doing because we needed to save a few pennies. I mean, like, I would go get my nails done, and then I it was also during the pandemic. The pandemic kinda also forcefully forced me to stop getting my nails done, and now I just do the glue-ons, but I'm like, that saves money, and now it's like a long-term thing. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't really have time to go into a salon. I mean, okay, let's be real. I do have time to go into a salon, but I don't want to make time to go into a salon to get my nails done.
But
And so
that
it's just
saves
those
you
little things that
$100 every
it
2
does.
weeks. Like,
It y
I love me, and I love, 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 love getting my nails done. Like, I press on, I'll
and
do,
that's
but, like
great.
but I still, like I cut back. Like, my nails are not done right now, and I've been like, "Okay, I'll get them done for special
Savage.
I know, it's wild for me. But I'm more like, "Okay, I'll do it for, like, a special occasion." Like, I'm going to Cabo next week, I'm gonna get them done. But then I probably
Yeah.
won't get them done for a little bit. But it's like,
And, like,
instead of just
everybody
going
has
and
their
doing
things
it.
they will splurge
Yeah.
on, and, like, Bryce is always saying, "Oh, I'm so cheap," and I'm like, "No, you're not cheap." Like, everyone is selectively cheap, and they pick what they will spend their money on and their priorities, and, like, whether that's your nails or tanning or clothes or cars or houses or whatever it may be, everyone has that, or even getting food. Bryce always says, "I can never, like, not justify getting a good meal, like, because it's you get good results out of it. I mean, hopefully. I mean, there's always a bad meal every now and then, but like, his thing, he loves to have a good meal, and I love that.
Yeah. I feel like something that I always have to remind myself, and it is hard because working out and like workout classes are so expensive. And like we do have a home gym. So I use
Yes.
that a lot. But to me, like I found that money is so worth going to those workout classes because then
There's an
I'm able to
investment in
show
it.
up. It's an investment for my health. I'm able to show up for work better, which then, brings in more money eventually. Like all these things where it's like it all trickles down. If I feel better about myself, I'm able to show up for work and I'm able to do these things. If I'm not taking care of myself, I notice it so much more. And I literally constantly have to remind myself, like, I found a balance. Like, yeah, I'm not going every day, but I try to go like once a week to a workout class to get out and get moving and do those things. And then I work out at home the rest of the week. But it's finding that balance. And I literally have to convince myself it's good, like a good investment because it is a good investment, but you start to feel guilty when it's such an expensive class. Like one class I went to recently, I got a package. So it was 3 classes for $100, which is expensive. But like I really liked the class. I was like, this is like really worth it for me. And I went and looked, and a single class was $60. I was like, I would not do that for $60. Like that's
Oh
crazy. But
my
like,
gosh.
yeah. But to me, like
Dang.
that
What
hundred
I mean, what?
bucks
Do you get to drip gold? What
I know,
is
like,
the
what?
what is it?
I was shocked by that. I was like, "Okay, I'd
Oh
find a
my
different
word.
studio if I was actually doing that, one time, but I did the package, and I was like, "Okay, that I felt like was good. Now let me try another place," you know?
Yeah, seriously. My word.
I know.
$60. I mean,
But that's what I
I
mean, like,
bought a ref
everything's so
I bought a
expensive.
reformer because I didn't like to go to the classes.
Yeah.
But I
I
found
wish I
out,
could
speaking
do
of
that.
which, I found out it won't be here for, like, probably 8 more weeks.
Oh my
So
god,
I'm
that's
like,
so long.
I know, it's, like, till June, like, it says it will be here,
Whoa.
and I'm like,
That that's
I
so
might go
long.
to the classes because 'cause I'm like, I
You should go to the
need
classes. I'm gonna still convince you. I like would buy I like love home gyms and I think a reformer is great, but I think also getting out, especially with our like work, is huge. Like that's just like I could do a workout at home just as good, but it's like I getting out and like physically going to a class and like I feel like they correct you and do things is always good too. I will still to this I will you're gonna have reformer and be like, you should go to a class like once every 2 weeks.
I told Bryce that. I said, "I think that I still will invest in the classes every now and then just to
It's just
make
not
sure
all the
that I'm still,
time.
like, getting out." Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
definitely something that it's great when you but those are the things that you're talking about, like, you get your physical health is such an investment, and I feel like that is something to take I mean, for me, I think that's something to splurge your money on because that lasts with you. I mean, you only get your body, like, it's not like you get another body, so it's take
It's
care
just
of
like
it.
investing in good products. Like I actually was just like I ordered all new hair products that were all natural. I'm like, yeah, they're a little more expensive, but like They're
Which
better for
ones?
me.
It's so hard finding like clean shampoos, like 100% clean, because if they are
True
100% clean,
Botanicals, I guess, is good. I used it at Evan's house and like his mom has it. It's good.
yeah, it's hard to find them because I feel like the like natural stuff
Inner
doesn't do as
Inner
great of a
Sense.
job.
Inner Sense. Have you
Oh,
heard of that?
oh yeah, that's what we use. Is it a green bottle?
No, it's like glass bottle with gold.
Maybe that's not
Inner
what we
Sense
use.
Organic Beauty.
Oh yeah, this is what Bryce uses for hairspray.
Oh, nice. I didn't get the hairspray. I got a volumizing and a oil, but
Let me know
we're
what you
starting
think.
with this. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Products in general are just like
It's
like I said,
tricky,
it
tricky,
depends.
tricky, tricky.
It's a tricky. It's literally figuring
So
out what
confusing. So
you're
confusing.
comfortable with and paying for, and then also what your like standards are for products. I mean, everybody's is so different. And like Bryce, his friend is staying with us right now. He's like, I am realizing so much like the things in my life I have to clean up because he was like, your dish soap doesn't get sudsy, and I'm like, that's because it's a cleaner brand. It doesn't need to get sudsy in order to clean. And he's like, oh really? And I was like, and Bryce is like, hey, like, explain what fragrance is and all this stuff. And he's like, I just need to clean up my life a little bit. I know. I'm like, you would save money actually with cleaning products because we just use vinegar and alcohol rather than like Clorox and bleach and all
We
that
also
stuff.
have
Don't.
a podcast episode on this that
It's
has a
true. We
lot of
talk about cleaner
information.
brands.
Sorry,
We
I didn't
should
mean
do
to
another one.
interrupt you. But yeah, we should because I feel like there's new products we're using. We're always learning. And that's something we talk about in that podcast is like we're always learning and not everything we use is 100% clean and organic, but we do our best to switch it out and to not try and feel like you have to switch everything out in one sweep. It's like learning, like his friend came and he's learning from being at your house. And I
Mhm.
think that's such a great way to start and implement a new lifestyle.